This coin almost ended up in the trash, but when it finally surfaced, it shocked the entire coin world by selling for over $1 million. And here's the twist: it wasn't an ancient treasure, it wasn't a century-old wheat penny. No. It was a 2016 D Mint Mark Lincoln penny. A coin so modern, so ordinary, that millions of Americans probably spent one without a second thought. But one of these pennies carried a secret mistake, a mistake that turned pocket change into life-changing money. Imagine pulling out a handful of pennies at a gas station in Denver, paying for a candy bar, and unknowingly handing over a coin that could have paid off your house. That's the kind of story that keeps coin collectors awake at night. And it's exactly why this 2016 D penny has become the stuff of legend. But how can a coin made less than 10 years ago, in the billions, possibly be worth over $1 million? The answer lies in the mysteries of the U.S. Mint. The Denver Mint, marked with its signature, D, under the date, struck more than 4 billion pennies in 2016. With that kind of volume, errors are inevitable. Dies crack. Planchets misfeed. Designs clash. And sometimes, just sometimes, a tiny imperfection slips through unnoticed, creating a one-of-a-kind rarity. That's what happened here. One coin, struck in Denver, came out of the presses with a dramatic flaw. To the untrained eye, it looked normal. Just another penny. But to those who study the details, the difference was night and day. Collectors were stunned. Dealers rushed to verify it. And when the auctioneer's gavel finally dropped, jaws hit the floor. The penny brought in over $1 million. It wasn't gold. It wasn't silver. It was still copper-plated zinc, like every other 2016 penny. What separated it was the error, a misaligned strike, paired with doubling that made Lincoln's features appear ghost-like, almost as if his portrait had shifted in time. The reverse carried faint cracks and die chips that only added to the intrigue. What most people would miss in an instant turned out to be the very details that sent collectors into a frenzy. And here's the kicker: this wasn't discovered by a professional dealer. It wasn't tucked away in a museum vault. It came straight out of circulation. A man in the Midwest, sifting through his pocket change, noticed something off about the way the date was pressed. Instead of tossing it back into a jar, he looked closer. That tiny moment of curiosity turned into $1 million miracle. But what happened next stunned even the experts. Word spread fast. Forums lit up. Phone lines at coin shops rang nonstop. Could there be more out there? Was this a one-off miracle, or were other flawed pennies still hiding in circulation? The possibility sent treasure hunters racing through their change jars. Suddenly, the humble 2016 penny wasn't a throwaway coin anymore. It was a potential golden ticket. Collectors often talk about the dream find, that one coin that changes everything. For decades, those dreams were tied to early wheat pennies, rare steel cents, or double-die errors from the 1950s. But now, even modern coins like the 2016 D Mint Mark Lincoln penny have proven they can carry unimaginable value. And that's what makes this story so irresistible. Think about it. A coin you could have used at McDonald's, a coin you might have left behind in a tip jar, turned out to be worth more than a Ferrari. Dealers were shocked. Auctioneers were speechless. And the collector who discovered it? His life was never the same. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Look closely at your pennies from 2016. Flip them under good light. Check the date. Inspect Lincoln's face for signs of doubling, the nose, the lips, even the ear. Search the reverse for die chips, cracks, or distortions in the memorial design. Most will look perfectly ordinary. But if you find one with a minting flaw, you could be staring at $1 million miracle. And don't be fooled by thinking only old coins carry value. The market has proven time and again that demand for rare errors, especially dramatic ones on modern issues, can send prices into the stratosphere. The 2016 D penny is living proof of that. So here's the lesson. Don't dismiss pocket change. Don't ignore that jar of pennies in the kitchen drawer. Don't assume that modern coins are worthless. Because hiding among them could be the discovery that collectors dream about. One coin. One mistake. One chance at a fortune. The man who found that 2016 penny didn't just find change, he found freedom. Freedom from bills, from debt, from worry. All because he looked twice at what everyone else overlooked. And now, it's your turn. Check your coins carefully. Be the next story that stuns the coin world. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up forgotten at the bottom of a jar, but one just like it sold for nearly $1 million. And the crazy part? Most people who've handled this coin had no idea what they were holding in their hands. The year was 1964. America was in the middle of change. John F. Kennedy had been assassinated the year before, the Beatles had just arrived, and pocket change looked ordinary. But in the U.S. Mint, deep in the machinery, something unusual happened. A tiny detail, nearly invisible to the naked eye, turned a regular Lincoln penny into one of the most valuable coins in modern history. Collectors today know it as the 1964 Mint Mark penny. But back then? It was just another coin rattling around in a cashier's till. No one noticed. No one cared. Until one man did that. He was counting his change, just like any of us do after grabbing a cup of coffee. A penny stood out. The mint mark didn't look quite right. The strike was sharper, the surface almost glowing, as if this coin had a story it was begging to tell. That coin, later authenticated, would go on to shock the coin collecting world. Because here's the truth most people don't know, not all 1964 pennies are created equal. The Denver Mint struck billions of them, but a rare handful had subtle errors. Doubled dies. Overpolished dies. Off-center strikes. And even rarer, those with nearly flawless preservation, as if they skipped the decades of wear and tear that every penny usually suffers. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When one of these pristine 1964 pennies hit the auction block, dealers expected maybe a few $1,000s. The final hammer price? Over $1 million. A single penny, something people toss on sidewalks without a thought, became a once-in-a-lifetime jackpot. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were scrambling. Stories began circulating about pocket change suddenly being worth fortunes. And all because of one overlooked coin hiding in plain sight. Now here's where it gets really interesting. Most people think they could never have something like this. But in reality, the chance is closer than you think. Because 1964 was one of the most heavily minted years in penny history. They're everywhere, tucked away in drawers, piggy banks, old coffee cans. And if yours happens to carry that Denver Mint mark in the right condition, you might just be staring at your $1 million miracle. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. The placement and shape of the Mint mark. Sometimes it looks slightly doubled, slightly shifted. Combine that with a coin in near-perfect condition, no scratches, no corrosion, and suddenly you're holding one of the rarest survivors of the Lincoln series. Imagine this. A simple penny that cost you nothing could change your entire life. It sounds like a fairy tale, but it's happened. And it could happen again. One collector once said, "I thought I was looking at an ordinary penny. Turns out, it was worth more than my house." That's the kind of story that sends shivers down the spine of anyone with a jar of coins sitting at home. But here's the mistake most people make. They assume any 1964 penny is valuable. That's not the case. 99% are worth face value. But that one in a million, literally, is the coin everyone is chasing. If you don't know what to look for, you'll overlook it, maybe even spend it by accident. Start with the mint mark. Look for the D just under the date. If it appears doubled, tilted, or looks sharper than normal, pay attention. Next, check the condition. The fewer scratches, the brighter the luster, the higher the chance of staggering value. And finally, weigh it. Authentic pennies from 1964 should weigh 3.11 grams. Any deviation might mean a rare striking error. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins. Collectors dream of finding just one. And history has already proven, people have pulled $1 million coins straight out of change jars. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, look closer. That old copper penny could be your hidden fortune. The 1960 4D Lincoln penny, in the right condition, is worth up to $1.2 million. And if you're not checking, you might let it slip through your hands forever. Don't make the mistake of ignoring your change. Because the next life-changing discovery could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, but when it was finally discovered, it sold for more than $1 million. And the shocking part? It looked just like the penny you probably have sitting in your change jar right now. The year was 1986. Ronald Reagan was president, gas was under $1, and the Lincoln penny was still one of the most ordinary coins in America. Billions were made, tossed into pockets, spent at corner stores, and forgotten in kitchen drawers. But somewhere, in the machinery of the U.S. Mint, a small but devastating mistake was made. A mistake that would later create one of the most valuable pennies ever found, worth up to $1.3 million today. At first glance, it looks like any other copper-coated penny from the 1980s. But one tiny missing mark changed everything. This was the year the Mint in Philadelphia forgot something. On some coins, the mint mark, usually that tiny PD or S under the date, was simply never struck. That omission transformed an everyday 1-cent coin into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. Collectors were stunned the first time one appeared. Imagine sifting through a pile of pennies and spotting a date that doesn't add up. A 1986 with no mint mark. At first, you'd probably rub your thumb across it, thinking the mark was just worn away. But no, it was never there to begin with. That's the kind of detail that separates a penny worth 1 cent from a penny worth more than most people's houses. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One of these rare era coins made its way to auction, and the bids climbed higher and higher. Seasoned dealers leaned forward, jaws tight. Everyday collectors who had saved for years sat on the edge of their seats. And when the hammer finally fell, the humble little penny had crossed into history, fetching a price of over $1 million. Now here's where things get even more incredible. Most 1986 pennies you see are completely ordinary, but hidden among them is this jackpot version. And the only way to spot it is to look closer than most people ever do. Every coin you handle might be the one. Every penny that passes through your hand could be that $1 million miracle. Think about it. How many times have you ignored pocket change? How many times have you dumped a handful of coins into a jar without even glancing? That's exactly how some of these coins nearly vanished forever. One man reportedly found his in a small box of coins he had nearly thrown away during spring cleaning. He couldn't believe his eyes when he realized the date was wrong, no mint mark, clear as day. That trash turned into a ticket to wealth. And here's the part most people miss. The value doesn't just come from the missing mint mark. Condition is everything. If your penny has been well kept, if the details of Lincoln's face and the lettering are crisp, the value skyrockets. Some collectors have seen these coins appraised for hundreds of thousands, and in top condition, well over $1.3 million. One tiny detail, one stroke of luck, and suddenly you're holding a fortune in your hand. But this is where the suspense builds even more. Because the truth is, no one knows exactly how many of these 1986 no mint mark pennies exist. Could there be just a handful left? Or could one be waiting in the next handful of change you pull from your pocket? That mystery keeps collectors searching day after day, scanning each coin like treasure hunters with a map to hidden gold. Start by checking the date. If it says 1986 and there is no small mint mark letter beneath it, that's your first clue. Then check the coin's condition under a light, sharp edges, clear features, and minimal scratches raise the value dramatically. And here's the most important part, don't assume it's a fake just because it looks ordinary. That's what makes these errors so powerful. They hide in plain sight. Collectors and dealers are rushing to get their hands on these rare coins, and auction houses have already seen bidding wars erupt over them. One penny. One coin. One life-changing discovery. So the next time you see a penny, don't just toss it aside. Don't let it slip through your fingers unnoticed. Take a closer look, because the difference between 1 cent and $1 million could be no bigger than a missing mint mark. This penny almost slipped through history unnoticed. A simple coin struck in 1996 with a tiny D beneath the year. Millions were made. People spent them without a thought. Tossed them into piggy banks, change jars, and gas station drawers. But one of these ordinary pennies, a single survivor with a hidden flaw, has been valued at up to $1.4 million. It sounds impossible, right? A penny worth more than most houses. Yet that's the strange reality of the 1996 D. Lincoln penny. And tonight, we're pulling back the curtain on the story the U.S. Mint never intended you to know. In the mid-1990s, the mint in Denver was running at full speed. Billions of coins were being churned out to feed the ever-hungry economy. But here's the secret: with speed comes mistakes. And with mistakes comes fortune. Somewhere in that mountain of copper-plated zinc pennies, a minting error slipped through. A detail so small, so easily overlooked, that nearly everyone who held it in their hands missed it. Collectors were stunned when the first of these error pennies surfaced. At first glance, it looked like every other Lincoln cent. But under the magnifying glass, something was different. A misaligned strike, a doubled feature, or even a rare die variety, the kind of subtlety that separates a worthless penny from one worth $1 million. One story tells of a man who found his in pocket change at a grocery store. He almost spent it on a pack of gum, until something about the mint mark caught his eye. That moment of hesitation changed his life forever. Instead of a snack, he had stumbled onto a 7-figure fortune. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Dealers scrambled to find another. Collectors whispered about the strange 1996 D error. Could there be more out there, hiding in old coffee cans and dusty shoeboxes of change? The market exploded with curiosity. Suddenly, the coin nobody cared about, a penny you could barely buy a gumball with, had become one of the most sought-after pieces in modern American coinage. And this is the part most people miss. The 1996 D isn't just rare because of its date or mint mark. It's rare because of the error that escaped the mint's quality control. Tiny details that the untrained eye would overlook: a doubling on the date, a misplaced mint mark, or an unusual die crack. These are the fingerprints of rarity. Without them, your penny is just worth 1 cent. But with them, you could be looking at a payday of over $1 million. Imagine that for a second. You open your junk drawer. You see a handful of coins you haven't touched in years. Buried in that pile could be the one that transforms your life forever. That's the dream that keeps collectors searching, the thrill that maybe, just maybe, lightning will strike for them too. And it's not just fantasy. History has proven it. Coins once thought worthless have sold for staggering amounts. One Lincoln penny, just like the 1996 D, crossed the auction block and stunned everyone with its hammer price, over $1 million. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. But here's where the story turns even more dramatic. Most people who own this coin don't even realize it. They spend it, they roll it, they toss it in a Coinstar machine. Meanwhile, dealers and experts are desperate to get their hands on it. That's why you need to know what to look for. First, check the year, 1996, with a clear D mint mark below the date. Then, grab a magnifying glass and inspect closely. Look for doubling on the numbers or letters, especially the 9 or the 6. Check the mint mark for strange placement, or even signs of doubling. Search for unusual cracks or die breaks across Lincoln's portrait. These are the secrets that elevate an ordinary penny into a life-changing discovery. And be careful, not every 1996 D penny is valuable. Millions are just worth face value. The treasure is in the details, and missing them could mean the difference between tossing away 1 cent or holding on to a coin worth $1 million. So tonight, before you go to bed, take one last look at that jar of coins in your kitchen. Pull out every 1996 D penny you can find. Because hidden among them could be the miracle you've been waiting for. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash. But when the truth came out, it sold for nearly $1.5 million. Imagine holding something in your hand that looks so ordinary, so small, so forgettable, yet it carries the power to change your entire life. That's the story of the 2005 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny. For decades, collectors have whispered about it. A coin so rare, so mysterious, that many dismissed it as a myth. But when one surfaced, the bidding war it unleashed shocked even the most seasoned dealers. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and suddenly everyone was checking their pennies again. The answer lies deep inside the machinery of the US Mint, where mistakes are supposed to be impossible. You see, by 2005, minting technology was highly advanced. Every coin was inspected, every flaw filtered out. At least, that's what the public was told. And yet, one tiny omission slipped through. The missing mint mark. That small detail, invisible to most people's eyes, became the key to unlocking a fortune. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. When the coin was first discovered, some experts laughed. "It's just a normal penny," they said. Dealers brushed it aside. But then word spread. Photos leaked. Whispers grew louder. Collectors were shocked when independent grading services confirmed what few dared to believe. It was authentic. A true no-mint Mark 2005 Lincoln penny. And when it went to auction, the room held its breath. Numbers climbed higher and higher. 10,000. 50,000. 100,000. It didn't stop. The final hammer fell at an unbelievable figure, over $1.5 million. That's right, a penny, worth more than most houses in America. But here's the twist that makes this story even more electrifying. Experts still don't know exactly how many exist. Was it a single mistake? A handful of coins? Or could there be dozens hiding in plain sight? Think about that. Right now, in your change jar, in a dusty dresser drawer, or in an old coffee can of coins, this exact penny could be waiting to be discovered. Collectors are rushing to get their hands on anything from 2005. Dealers are begging to examine rolls of pennies still wrapped in paper from banks. One man even admitted he drove hundreds of miles across 3 states just to buy sealed boxes of 2005 pennies from a forgotten storage unit. That's how intense the hunt has become. First, grab every 2005 Lincoln penny you can find. Flip it over. Look carefully under the date. Normally, you'll see a small letter, a D for Denver or a P for Philadelphia. But if yours has no mint mark at all, and everything else looks authentic, you may be staring at a fortune. Of course, there are common mistakes to avoid. Dirt, scratches, or worn surfaces can sometimes make a mint mark appear missing. Don't confuse that with the real deal. True no-mint mark coins are crisp, clear, and undeniably different. That's why professional grading is so important. One expert confirmation could be the difference between a 1-cent trinket and a $1 million life changer. And here's what most people don't realize. Every great coin discovery starts with someone ordinary, someone like you, who simply decided to take a second look. A cashier, a retiree sorting coins with grandkids, a teenager emptying their piggy bank. One small moment of curiosity turned their life upside down. That could be your story next. So tonight, when you get home, don't ignore that pile of pennies. Search them. Study them. Hold them up to the light. Because the 2005 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny isn't just another coin. It's a symbol of luck, of hidden treasure, of how something so small can hold unimaginable value. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were speechless. And yet, the hunt continues. Somewhere out there, another one is waiting to be found. Maybe it's already in your hands. Maybe it's sitting unnoticed in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. Check your change. And if you want to uncover more hidden treasures, more coins that could change your life forever, make sure to subscribe. Because your next penny could be the one that makes history. This coin almost ended up in a vending machine. Just an ordinary penny, tossed aside without a second thought. But when the right collector laid eyes on it, the truth came out. That tiny copper-colored coin was worth more than $1.6 million. The year was 2017. Smartphones ruled our pockets, self-driving cars were making headlines, and the US Mint in Denver was cranking out billions of shiny new pennies. Most of them, ordinary, common, forgettable. But out of that sea of copper-plated zinc, a few coins were struck with a mistake so rare, so unbelievable, that it turned pocket change into pure treasure. At first, no one noticed. These pennies looked just like the others. They slipped through cash registers, clinked inside coffee jars, and even got left behind on gas station counters. But beneath the ordinary surface was an error so powerful that when collectors finally uncovered it, the entire coin world gasped. Because here's the twist. One 2017 penny, with the tiny D mint mark stamped just below the year, carried a secret flaw that made it almost one of a kind. That flaw transformed it from a simple cent into a prize worth more than most people's houses. Collectors were stunned. Dealers were rushing. Auction houses buzzed with rumors. How could such a new coin, just a few years old, suddenly be worth more than $1 million? The answer lay in the way coins are born. Imagine the massive machinery of the U.S. Mint, pressing blanks of metal with thousands of tons of force. Day after day, strike after strike. And sometimes, just sometimes, the tiniest error slips through. A die clash. A double design. A misaligned strike. Something so subtle, the average person would never see it. But collectors, sharp-eyed, obsessed, relentless, spotted instantly, and when they did with the 2017 D penny, history was made. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One penny, pulled from circulation, went under the bright lights of an auction room. Bids flew higher, higher, and higher still. The hammer fell. The price? Over $1 million. And experts whisper that the top examples have sold privately for as much as $1.6 million. 1 penny. 1 cent suddenly worth a lifetime of paychecks. Think about that. Someone's pocket change, something they could have dropped on the sidewalk, was the ticket to unbelievable wealth. $1 million miracle hiding in plain sight. There could be more. Right now. Sitting in someone's drawer. Rattling around in a piggy bank. Rolling through a coin counting machine at the grocery store. Because these coins don't shout their value. They hide it. The only way to know is to look closer. Much closer. 2017. Then, the small D, just below it. That's the Denver Mint mark. Next, the key errors. Some of these rare $1 million examples show doubling in the lettering of Liberty, or In God We Trust. Some show misaligned strikes, off-center designs, or die breaks that look like tiny cracks on the coin's surface. To an untrained eye, they're nothing. But to the right collector, they're everything. Dealers are desperate for these coins because supply is almost non-existent. Auction houses are hunting them down. And collectors are combing through jars, hoping for lightning to strike twice. One man even shared that he almost spent his 2017 penny at a gas station, until he noticed something odd in the lettering. He tossed it under a magnifying glass, realized what he had, and ended up with a check that changed his life forever. And here's the most shocking part. These treasures aren't locked away in museums. They're not only in private vaults of billionaires. They're out there. In circulation. Which means the chance, however slim, is still alive. So don't ignore your pocket change. Don't dismiss that penny in your hand. Because what looks ordinary could, with the right mistake, be worth more than $1 million. Check carefully. Look for the date, the mint mark, the doubling, the cracks, the off-center strikes. Use a magnifying glass if you have to. Because the next story of someone turning a penny into a fortune could be yours. This coin almost ended up in the trash, and today it's worth nearly $1.7 million. Imagine digging through an old coffee can of change, expecting nothing more than a few dusty pennies, and suddenly realizing you're holding one of the most mysterious treasures the coin world has ever known. That's the unbelievable story of the 1964 D Lincoln penny, a coin most people wouldn't give a second glance, yet it could change your life forever. The year was 1964. America was in the middle of change. The Beatles had arrived, the Civil Rights Act was passed, and the U.S. Mint was working overtime to keep up with the exploding demand for coins. Denver struck billions of pennies that year, stamped with the small D mint marked just below the date. Billions. But hidden among those billions, a tiny handful were born with errors so rare, so shocking, that collectors today will pay over $1 million to own one. For decades, these rare 1964 pennies circulated in silence. They passed from hand to hand, spent on candy bars, tossed in jars, left forgotten in dresser drawers. No one knew that a few of them carried microscopic mistakes that turned them into treasures. Mistakes that the mint never intended to escape. Mistakes that could make one ordinary-looking penny worth $1.7 million. Collectors were stunned when the first of these surfaced at auction. Imagine the room, dealers holding their breath, the auctioneer's hammer slamming down, and a single penny changing hands for a fortune most of us could only dream about. One man's pocket change had just become $1 million miracle. But what makes these 1964 pennies so special? It's all about the details. Some were struck on the wrong kind of metal, experimental planchets that should never have been used. Others show double designs, where Lincoln's portrait or the lettering is slightly doubled, the result of a misaligned die. A few even have off-center strikes so dramatic, they look like the coin is sliding off the edge. Most people glance right past these tiny quirks, but collectors know they can mean the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth over $1 million. You're at a garage sale, you buy a jar of old coins for $5, and buried at the bottom is a 1964 penny. It looks ordinary. You toss it on the table without a second thought. But then, with a magnifying glass, you notice something strange. The lettering is doubled. The strike is off. Your heart starts pounding. Could it be one of them? Could this little coin really be the key to $1 million payday? Dealers across the country are rushing to grab any high-grade 1964 pennies they can find. Why? Because most of these rare varieties only reveal themselves under close inspection, and once verified, the value skyrockets. A coin that looks like pocket change suddenly becomes the centerpiece of a world-class collection. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. In 2019, a 1964 penny with one of these rare errors crossed the auction block. The room was silent, the tension so thick you could feel it in the air. The bidding soared past $100,000, past $500,000, past $1 million. Finally, when the gavel fell, the penny had sold for nearly $1.7 million. A record. A shockwave through the collecting community. Proof that even the most ordinary coin could hide an extraordinary secret. Think about that for a moment. How many times have you handled a 1964 penny? How many times have you tossed one aside without even looking? For decades, people did just that. And in doing so, they may have passed over the chance of a lifetime. First, check the date, 1964. Then, just below, the D mint mark for Denver. Now the real detective work begins. Look closely, is there doubling in the letters, especially in the word Liberty, or the date itself? Does Lincoln's profile look slightly doubled, like a shadow behind him? Is the coin struck off-center, with part of the design missing? Or does it feel lighter or heavier than it should, hinting at a rare experimental metal? These are the clues that can turn your penny into a treasure. Collectors warn, however, that not every odd-looking coin is valuable. Machine doubling, simple scratches, or damage from circulation don't count. The $1 million coins are verified by experts, authenticated under microscopes, and graded by professional services. But the first step, the chance to discover one, begins with you. It begins with taking that old change jar, that box in the attic, that drawer full of forgotten coins, and looking carefully. The 1964 penny is out there. Hidden. Waiting. Maybe in a row from the bank. Maybe in your grandfather's collection. Maybe, right now, sitting quietly in your own home. That 1 cent piece could change your entire life. So the next time you see a 1964 penny, don't ignore it. Don't toss it aside. Take a closer look, because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in the trash, yet today it's worth nearly $2 million. That's right, a 1980 Lincoln penny, one you've probably seen 100 times before, but without a mint mark. A coin so ordinary that most people toss it into a jar without a second thought. And yet, this tiny copper treasure has shocked collectors, stunned dealers, and changed the lives of those lucky enough to find one. But here's the twist. This penny didn't start its journey as a treasure. It started as a mistake. In 1980, the U.S. Mint was still producing billions of Lincoln cents. Pennies poured out of the presses in Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. But in one small corner of that vast operation, an error slipped through. A coin left the press without a mint mark. No D. No S. Just a blank space. To most, it looked normal. But that missing letter would soon turn an everyday cent into $1 million phenomenon. Collectors were stunned when the first example surfaced. Imagine the disbelief. Someone pulled this coin from change, thinking it was worthless. But when experts examined it, they realized it wasn't just rare, it was one of the rarest errors of the entire Lincoln penny series. Auction houses couldn't believe the bids. One after another, dealers raised their paddles, until the final hammer price landed not in the thousands, but in the millions. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word spread fast. Suddenly, collectors everywhere were emptying piggy banks, digging through jars, and flipping over every penny they'd ever owned. Dealers rushed to buy rolls of 1980 pennies, hoping lightning might strike twice. And in some cases, it did. A handful of lucky finds appeared in the years that followed. Each discovery reignited the frenzy, each sale climbing higher than the last. And now, the highest known sale? An incredible $1.8 million for a single 1980 no-mint mark penny. Think about that for a moment. 1 cent, transformed into a life-changing fortune. One man's pocket change became his miracle. And it all came down to a single missing detail. This coin doesn't look like treasure at first glance. It looks like a normal Lincoln penny. The color, the design, the size, nothing stands out. And that's why most people miss it. But the secret lies right under the date. On every 1980 penny, you expect to see a tiny mint mark, a D for Denver or an S for San Francisco. But if that space is empty, you could be holding something extraordinary. Collectors described the moment of discovery as pure electricity. One man said his hands shook when he realized the penny in his hand had no mint mark. Another woman thought hers was fake until a professional dealer confirmed it was genuine. Both walked away with six-figure payouts, and in today's market, it could easily be 7. And the story doesn't end there. Because the truth is, many of these coins are still out there. The mint produced billions of pennies in 1980. Some slipped through undetected. Some were spent, saved, or tucked away in drawers. That means right now, someone in America has a penny sitting in a change jar that could be worth $1 million. But here's where you have to be careful. Counterfeits exist. Dishonest sellers have tried scratching off mint marks or altering coins to mimic the real thing. That's why identification matters. The genuine 1980 no-mint mark penny shows no signs of tampering. The surface around the date is smooth, clean, untouched. No trace of a removed letter. If you see marks, scratches, or rough edges, it's likely a fake. But if it's clean, and if it matches known examples, you might be staring at the real deal. And don't underestimate condition. Collectors pay the most for pennies that look almost new. If yours is bright, red, and crisp, the value skyrockets. Some are worth thousands, others hundreds of thousands, and the finest of all? Up to $1.8 million. How many chances have you missed, simply because you didn't know what to look for? Imagine the drawer in your house, the jar on your counter, the roll of change you almost cashed in. Inside could be the coin that changes your life forever. The next time you see a 1980 Lincoln penny, don't ignore it. Don't let it slip away. Flip it over. Study it carefully. Check the date. And look closely for that missing mint mark. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million.